Hi everyone, I'm Jack the Rambling Raconteur, and I hope that you're doing well. I'd like to share a few thoughts on Poso Wells, which is an absolutely fabulous novel, and I use that adjective very intentionally because this is a book that I think has elements that make it the first example in the 21st century of a novel extending that beloved tradition of fantastic writers from Central and South America whose novels evoke something so close to reality, something that feels so authentic and yet feels strange, that feels wonderfully surprising. Whether it's an absurd work or a surreal work, sometimes folks use the term magical realism, the novels and stories of writers like Gabriel, Garcia, Marquez, Clarice, Lispector, Alfredo Bioy, Casares, particularly with the invention of Morel, Juan Rulfo, all of these writers who are conjuring worlds, Julio, Cortázar, Jorge, Borges, that feel so similar, not just to the writer's experiences or the experiences of individuals within our culture, but that feels so close to our readers' experiences, and yet are ultimately so provocative because of the ways that they differ, the ways that those writers introduce elements that make the world feel perhaps less stable than we would like it to be. And Alemán is tapping into that with this wonderful novel. I mentioned in a video about a week ago that this is my favorite novel to come out of Ecuador. So I snagged it out of the library, read it, reacquainted myself with the text, and realized just how much I not only enjoy this book, but Alemán's sense of humor. I want to give an example of that right away. This is how the book opens. Poso Wells does not appear on any map. How could it? The last time anyone did a topographical survey, that huge mass of mud dredged from the estuary was still part of the river, and water flows. It's not subdivided into lots. But there lies Poso Wells, objections be damned. If you were to ask any of its residents for a precise description of its location, they might tell you it's the most stinking, forgotten hole on this side of the Pacific. Kilometers and kilometers of houses built of sticks and reeds held together by a mix of mud and stones, all resting on a suspension of sewage and moldy clay. Mangrove posts sunk into soft, unstable soil that cracks open in new places with every tide or current, sweeping the high-tonnage ships toward the port of Guayaquil. But if that answer didn't satisfy you, and you were to press on with, "But what street do I take? What corner do I take? From the Beltway, do I head north or south?" then most likely you'd be told to go to hell. And your respondent might mutter under her breath that anyone's idea of hell on a bad day would look a lot like Poso Wells. It's in the mouth of the effing devil, if you really want to know. That's how the book opens. And we are then treated to a set piece that is one of the most absurd, one of the most absolutely ludicrous set piece death scenes I've ever encountered in fiction. I don't want to spoil it because it is unlike anything I've ever encountered. And I would almost say don't read the back of the novel if you're interested in reading it, because it's mentioned on there. So try to avoid the spoilers because it opens with it right away. But there's no way to actually spoil the writing. The way that this death scene is evoked is absurd. It is unbelievable. And then on this rereading, I was reminded that probably the book that this feels closest to in a couple of ways is Thomas Pynchon's The Crying of Lot 49. That there's something special going on here where Alemán is squarely looking the corruption, the horror, the real terror that people, but women in particular, can experience in societies that are, where corruption is rampant, and so the vulnerable are so much more vulnerable and can just disappear. And she stares that square in the eye, but then she doesn't just smirk at it. She wants to openly laugh at it. And I think she wants her characters to laugh at it. She wants the reader to laugh at times at it, while never shying away from the true horror that lies in these experiences. And so the book is just outstanding. To give another example, the residents of Poso Wells Cooperative were sick of soldiers. All those uniforms were making life impossible. Search after search, house after house, and every day they raised at least one. They closed 4 shops that served as unlicensed bars. They confiscated cans of black powder from a clandestine fireworks factory and arrested more than 15 men for lack of papers and 3 women for leaving their small children locked in their shacks during the day while they went out to work. The people couldn't bear anymore. How could the soldiers demand papers in good order when there wasn't even water to drink? Give them just that, just water, and they'd be first in line to play by the rules. A meeting was called in the plaza where the kidnapped man had disappeared. "We have to do something right now or they'll haul us all to jail," said a solidly built man of medium height, hoarse and sweating heavily. "We need to take advantage of the fact that we're all over the TV, demand deeds to our land, and get ourselves legalized once and for all," the woman answered him. So the way that characters are reacting to things, it reveals just how desperate their lives can be. And yet at the same moment that there is this sense of this sense of just personal like touch, this personal greed almost, this demand for more than what they're presented with. And we are introduced to so many characters who are not just on the margins of society, but are really trying to like carve out their own space on the margins of society. It's almost as if I can't be expected, well, I'm darn well going to make this section, this corner, this place where the mangrove stuck, planks are stuck down in the mud. This is going to be my section of that. And it's really wonderful to see this type of vivacity in characters. But we're also treated to these just extended pieces that are strange, that are really quite frightening. It turns out that there are tunnels running underground, and what happens in the tunnels is pretty frightening. But this is one set of characters. Thou camest and conjoined heaven and earth, and thou hast broken the cycle of the snakes. Now is the hour to rise into the presence of the angels, said one of the voices. To tarry with the lizards in the world of the present, it is time. Thou art the envoy, the promised one. All the signs have been given, continued another. So spoke the old ones, in truth, and in truth I say that thou wilt see the sky open and the angels of God rise and fall upon the Son of Man, the third intoned. Then the man who had been sunk in the mud in his own excrement for, 2 weeks, 3, could not understand anything, but he realized that this time they were speaking to him, and doing so with deference, as if something had changed. The oldest, the fourth one with the broken voice, came closest to offering an explanation. In the beginning, a void was opened in the rock and issued forth things inanimate, senseless, and flames, and other creatures with only the barest of intellect. And then came men, and then at last the angels, who can be heard singing and fluttering, but whom no one can touch. The words offered him no reassurance. Flames? Angels? Thou art the envoy, he who will allow us to leave these walls that oppress us and to feel the air once more upon our heads, the fifth man uttered. An enormous room where 100 men, one atop the other, will not reach the roof of soft rock that protects us from the void. Andres Vinuesa decided that this was not a moment to ask questions, but rather to listen to what was being said. Soon he would escape from this gang of imbeciles who mixed biblical texts with the most esoteric beliefs, lizards, snakes, celestial beings. Once they were outside, it would be a different story, but until then, he was in their hands. As he listened, from some remote corner of his brain came the parable of Jacob's ladder. What these brutes were saying reminded him of catechism classes. Did they take him for some minor messiah, the incarnation of a deity? If so, why had they mistreated him? Just before they left him, he heard, mixed with the sound of their rattles, something that diverted him from those thoughts. Thou shalt provision us with women, and we will be strong once more. Thou shalt see we will protect thee, and thou too shalt prosper, proclaimed all five in a ragged, unsynchronized chorus that added a strange resonance to their words. Women. Why? And we have that moment that feels like something out of Samuel Beckett. It is so strange. It is frightening. We don't know what's coming, but we know it cannot be good. This absolute fool, Andres Vinuesa, who has been kidnapped and has been taken underground by these men, is possibly running to be the next president of Ecuador. And so that level of just out and out satire is something Alemán truly excels at. It can be very hard to be a funny writer, and to do it within a tradition that feels steeped in realism, that feels just a deep examination of what life can be like for those who aren't at the top, of the food chain, within a society where there is corruption, where there are so many who don't have perhaps the stable, secure lives. To be able to do that and also make the reader laugh is really just something incredible. So I'd highly recommend this book. It was published originally I think it was written about 15 years ago, but it was her first novel translated into English. And this is a writer that, I would love more folks to be aware of. As the opening line says, Poso Wells does not appear on any map, but it should definitely appear on a shelf. So let me know your thoughts. Let me know if you know of other great writers from Ecuador. This is certainly my favorite. So thank you.